Hello, Darren.
Hi, Darren.
Would you like to do part 2 of our Star Wars special?
Episode 2.
Well,
Star Wars.
I suppose it's Star Wars. Oh, why don't... No, here we do. I know what we do. We call this episode 5.
Yes. Yes. The one we've just done is episode 4.
Yeah. See, I loved all that, at the time, even though that was an add-on, as we discussed before. But the idea that there was this stuff missing, they should have just kept that stuff missing.
Yes, I agree. That's it gives it just more mystique, doesn't it?
I spent, something like 20 years thinking, what on earth was episode 1? And when I saw it, boy, oh boy, was that disappointing.
Wasn't everybody?
Yeah, I mean, I think even the hardcore are hard pushed to defend those ones.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk still about Star Wars, but I wanted to talk specifically about these guys and sort of my rekindled relationship with them recently.
The toys.
Well, like many people, I used to go around saying, I used to have them. I don't know where they went. I used to have them in an ice cream tub. And then at one point, I sort of asked my parents, where are they? No, we haven't got them. You've got them. And I thought they'd all gone. But I think this is kind of quite a familiar story, toys that you thought you had, parents throwing them out, not being sure or whatever. And who knows where all the stuff goes. And also, I think it's also part
Sandy
of life.
Denny song.
Who knows? Who knows where your mint condition Greedo goes is literally the Sandy Denny song. Anyway, a little bit sad about it, but I'm an adult, I didn't cry. The thing is, though, my mum never forgot. And my mum sort of loves misery.
Right.
You sort of be there doing nothing. And this is, I'm sort of now, this story once again has quite a bit to do with my dad dying the other year from, I don't know why, I feel like I always have to say that he died from COVID. I don't know why I feel I have to say that. I feel like why do I have to say that each time?
Because it wasn't normal at the time. It wasn't, and you were never going through life assuming that one of your parents is gonna die to a brand new horrible disease, were you? I think
also
cancer.
I think also at the time, because I went through it, and friends would say, I don't know anyone else who's actually, even though they were saying these incredible figures of people dying, I think the amount of people there are in Britain, it still took quite a lot to really know someone who died. And I think I sort of at the time felt like, my dad might inadvertently be doing people a service by reminding them that it's potentially fatal. So I think then when I said, I've lost my dad. Oh, how did he die? To COVID, I felt like, it just might make people keep their mask on or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my mum also had COVID very bad at the same time my dad did, but she survived. And I was spending a lot of time over there. And just over the last 15 years, she just randomly will say things like, oh, Darren, it's a shame you never found your Star Wars figures. It's like, all right, thanks, Mum. Anyway, she did that once when I was around there. My sister was there. And my sister said, oh, I know where they are. They're around my house.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I've never heard this.
Yeah, it's great. And she went, I'll go and get them. My sister only lives a stone's throw from her mum. And she got them. And so some of these are from my childhood. This Luke here, I'll never replace him, even though his lightsaber. Do you see this? His lightsaber comes out his hand. And then I kept all of my guns in this, the Star Wars mass set. So in here, yeah, I would have all of the guns. There's a few guns from other figures there and stuff. And yeah, and I think I've talked about this before. Like I draw, I've drawn bits of Lego, and there's something I'm really interested in is what we use to prompt memory. And when I got these out of the ice cream tub, where they'd been around my sisters and I hadn't seen them for, I don't know, 15, 20, no longer. I don't know how long I hadn't seen them for. I can't explain it. Like, I know the shape of this figure inside out. I know those little bobbles on his buckle. I know everything about him. I even know the ways in which he's broken, the fact that his yellow hair is just rubbing off here. And I think music has this incredible power to transport you through time. But I think objects do as well. Objects can absolutely just take you back. And the amount of information that was in my head about these objects when I got them out and got their guns. And I found, like, as I was getting them out of the tub, I could even, like, I could remember other things. Like, I could remember, oh yeah, no, this one's lost his gun. I remember this one. Like, I can remember things like that. That, like, oh, this one's broken because of this, and something very, very specific memories about objects. You know, just flooding out. Really, really curious. And this as well. This. It also made me remember what was in it, the compass and the protractor and everything like that. This tin had loads of guns in it, so I kept all the guns separate. I was spotty enough to have a tin which kept the guns separate. I wasn't so spotty enough that I never lost any. There was still plenty that were lost.
Right.
So I put it on Twitter. I think I did a photograph of this, and I thought there might be a Star Wars fan on there might help me. So I said, you know, where anyone know which gun goes with which figure? Because I suppose I'm contradicting myself slightly. I knew some of them, but I didn't know all of them. Yeah. And this is how I met Craig. Craig popped into my timeline and sent this exhaustive diagram. He basically photoshopped it and sort of wrote arrows on which figure was which and everything. And then we just got talking. Because Craig's house is like a museum, not just for Star Wars. Even he loves all sorts of ephemera. What he really likes is he likes that stuff that I was talking about earlier, the sort of the Wild West stuff. He likes bootlegs. He likes He doesn't. It's not so much for him about pristine movie posters. It's about soap and toys. And he does this really cool thing, which he collects Star Wars scrapbooks, but he's not trying to find them mint. He's trying to find them used. Right. So he loves finding kids' scrapbooks, which have, you know, then their own drawings or lists about Star Wars and stuff cut out from the sun when Mark Hamill's over here and stuff like that. And I think that's quite a unique way to collect this stuff, because a lot of people would get excited about mint condition and all that business. Whereas
yeah,
Craig, and I guess
he wants.
I think this has value because his tip's broken off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
got a bit of a history to it.
Yeah. And so from there, I sort of I started painting and drawing them. And as we've sort of discussed before, like, drawing really is just another way to look at things. And basically every Star Wars film I've been to see with my dad. The first three, and then the second three, and then the last two. But actually, my dad, I mean, he wasn't bothered. I mean, he liked it because he went with me, I guess. But my dad actually managed to die before they did episode 9 in the cinema, so he didn't get to see the last one. But yeah, I found that sort of doing these drawings of the figures and doing exactly what I'm doing now and tracing these little details, can't explain it. It is like time travel. Because what are you going to do if you've got these toys? If they're just going to be ornaments, what do? You just look at them. But as we've said before, drawing things is just like looking at them more. I don't know. It's
it is
attracted looking, isn't it?
Yeah,
and these tiny little pieces of plastic. And so then the painting, I did some like this, but then I started to do quite large scale paintings that you've seen. I'll show you them. So I started to do them in acrylic on canvas.
There we go. That's
So
how big? Look at that. How big are they?
Well, they're right here, actually. I'll actually pick one up and try and show you relatively. So here's Leia. So yeah, they're so big I can't fit them in the screen.
Big.
I guess.
What's that like? A2?
Yeah,
A3?
A2, massive.
A2. Yeah.
And it's interesting because like drawing is so because we both work to a fairly small scale, don't we?
Yeah.
I work to a smaller scale than you usually.
Yeah.
And when you're drawing incredibly small, I'm particularly pleased with the pleather here.
Yes.
I like doing things. I like them being broken again. I like the bent tip on the lightsaber there. It's a Jawa. This is my favourite one.
Clever there.
Yeah, I like the holes there in his cape and stuff.
Right. Yeah. They're great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's another. Oh well, Leia. There's Leia in her entirety. Leia's hard because you're trying to draw. As I was saying earlier, this doesn't look like Mark Hamill.
No.
And the figure of Leia doesn't look like Leia, but you're trying to do something in between, right? You're trying to draw a plastic object. This is a favourite. I think there's something about also painting in acrylic, which is, obviously, there's everyone's favourite, Boba Fett.
Yeah.
There's something about painting in acrylic which helps to make something look plasticky because, acrylic is in itself, what do you call it? It's a paint, isn't it? I mean, it dries.
Is it polymer?
Yeah. So it has a plastic quality as it dries, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And so I think it's fair to say that it's about as obsessed I've got with an idea since, returning to painting in the sort of last 10 or 15 years. I think I got properly obsessed with this one. And my favourite person in the world came here one weekend, and the entire flat was covered with these canvases. And Craig very quickly became my new friend, became my Star Wars friend, and I was getting advice on which ones I should do. And they were also like the longest I've ever done. Like these paintings took me, I suppose if I really knuckled down to it, I could maybe do one in a day, but we don't ever paint from 9 to 5, do we?
No.
So, I'd get a couple of done a week, but I worked really hard.
A lot of work.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, as I say, it was like an emotional idea. It had like, although on one level it's obviously, geeky Star Wars paintings, but on another level it had this thing about memory and stuff that I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
And like I was taking it quite seriously. And also, I would say in terms of, I don't know that they're my best paintings, but I would say in terms of just, that's what I was trying to explain earlier. So when you're painting small, you're trying to reduce a building to small. So you necessarily have to leave things out, right? You have to leave out some details in the window and stuff like that. Whereas this was weird because I was painting something this big, as big as my finger, but I was painting it like possibly 50 times bigger.
Yes,
and I thought that was a really interesting thing to be doing because it meant you really could put everything in.
Yeah.
You could put a scrape of paint, a fingerprint on. And so anyway, as well as these being an emotional idea, I also did think, and I'm pretty sure I said to you at the time, I reckon I'm going to make £1 million. I really thought that I'd struck a really good idea here. Massive canvases of these toys. If I felt this way, surely other people would feel this way, right?
Yeah. I agreed with you. I assumed that you would definitely sell them. Definitely.
So I was trying to think, where do I sell them? And Craig said, I don't want to blame Craig too much for this story because he is my friend. Craig said, well, you should go to Comic-Con. So I booked a table at Comic-Con. Have you ever been to Comic-Con?
No. I haven't.
It's really strange. It's pretty strange. Massive. It's at what was it? It's at Olympia. It's massive. I spent 3 days there. I think I spent something like, I think I've blocked out what I spent actually.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You
mean what you spent on having the stall?
I think the stall. I want to say it was 300 quid for the days, but it might have been more. Like maybe my brain's making it less than it was. But I still thought, I like this idea,
Yeah.
And so I've spent, 3 days at Comic-Con. So, most people just go to Comic-Con for a day, I guess. I don't suppose many people go for... Oh, was it free? Maybe it was 2 days, actually. I think it was 2 days. That's maybe for...
Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I think I know what it was. It was Friday night, like a half day, and then... I
think that's often the case.
And then it was Saturday and Sunday. And so I spent, the whole weekend there with my mate Dan.
Yep.
And I still don't know what it is. Like, I know what it is. I mean, I know that like it's about comics and it's about science fiction and it's about superheroes. and it's about some stalls, and it's about people walking up and down in costumes.
Yeah.
I still don't quite know what it is. I mean,
I know what you mean.
I mean, it's kind of wonderful. The thing of sort of people dressing up as their favourite characters is it's easy to smirk at it, and it's easy to think it's ridiculous. But when you see it done and you see how supportive they all are of each other, you know, like you see two Princess Leias who see each other and they squeal and take photographs, and I don't know. It's hard to have a cynical head about that sort of stuff. And the whole event makes fandom seem very beautiful.
Yeah.
I would go out of my way and say one thing I did have trouble getting my head around was the autograph section.
Yeah.
And so before we did these videos, we had a preamble, didn't we? And I said, right, Darren, we've got to be positive. We don't say anything negative about Star Wars fans. But here I am. I'm going to go and say something slightly. We were there, and we hadn't gone up on this. There's like an upper floor with a balcony around it. And Dan, my friend, who also isn't particularly a Star Wars fan, but was fascinated by where we were, the event we were at.
Yeah.
Dan said, I'm going to go and have a look around. And he went upstairs and looked at the autograph thing. And he came back down and he went, you have got to go upstairs. It's the bleakest thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I suppose you've got to. I mean, I don't know. I suppose what's particularly
tell us about it.
Well, it's you have.
Is this where celebrities sitting at desks signing things, or is it? Yeah. Right. Okay.
And so. I mean, I suppose also the thing about this is I am a person who does sometimes sign autographs.
Yeah.
You know, and I've never once thought that that's, you know, got any kind of premium to it. You know, I've never thought that was something. It's never occurred to me you could charge for that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, also, I very probably couldn't. But then again, I possibly could. Because I know of artists of my stature who have on their Bandcamp page, like you'll pay extra for a signed copy of a record.
Right.
If anyone's listening to this and wants a signed record from me, just buy one and then put a little note of it and say, could you sign it? And I will, and I won't charge you. I might forget. That's normally what happens.
Yeah.
I won't charge you. But also, like, the idea that, I don't know, it's like in art, in entertainment or whatever, it's like we talked about before, the idea of good or bad, the idea of better or worse. I like kind of pretending those things don't exist, right?
Yeah.
It's just art. It's just drawing. Somebody prefers this. Somebody prefers that. There's no absolute good. That's what is good about all of this that we do.
Yeah.
But when you have like loads of actors lined up with their, you know, for autographs with the price in front of them, then there's a hierarchy. And that's, I think that's what Dan meant when he said it's as bleak as fuck, because, you know, you've got one guy charging 15 quid and no one there. You've got another guy charging 40 quid. And you know, they're saying no more people can join the queue. It's bleak. I agree with Dan. and to anyone listening who has done it, on either side, if you're an actor doing it, or if you're someone who's queued up for it, sorry, I'm sorry. There's many things I don't understand, and whatever floats your boat. But yeah, I couldn't really get my head around that.
No, it does sound grim. As you said, especially if you're the celebrity who is charging less and yet getting absolutely no interest whatsoever.
Well, I mean, it certainly speaks to how massive these things are. I mean, I understand that. I understand that it. I certainly understand that some people can't say no. There's people that were a stormtrooper, for 5 minutes on a plot on L Street.
Yeah.
In 1977. And now they earn a couple £100 by sitting somewhere. I mean, I don't blame them for doing it.
No.
And I don't blame someone for wanting it. I love Star Wars. Why can't I pay to have this thing signed? I mean, actually, I'm already backtracking, but there was something about it as a market, as an industry, that still, for someone who'd never seen it before, I found it extremely odd.
I think it's I saw the same thing at the weekend. I was at the Comic Arts Festival in the Lake District. And that's more specifically just comics. Comic cons have started to outgrow their name, really, and they have lots of film-related things. And,
oh, God, yeah. Actually, comics weren't a very big part of this at all. It was mainly about... In fact, even films overstates it. A lot of it was about TV franchises and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I was at this Comic Art Festival, and it was in a rather big bar in Bowness, it's on Windermere, and it was very odd because you had booths where people were eating their lunch and having a pint, whilst literally next to them was Dave Gibbons, the man who drew Watchmen. Just sitting there quietly, waiting for his queue to turn up to get their signed books. There was a queue that he wasn't. It's like he hadn't been forgotten, but yeah, it's a very surreal thing that of seeing people just sitting at a table. It's like, right, come on, I'm ready for you. I'll sign your stuff.
My friend Andy, who also makes cameos in these things quite often, he does. I mean, I don't think this exists in any of the genres of music we do, but like metal bands do these things called meet and greets, but you pay for a ticket.
Yeah.
So you pay for a ticket and you queue up, and I think the idea is you get something a little more than just an autograph. The idea is you're in a room and they'll circulate the room. Yeah. And he's done them a few times. He was telling me the other day about an Anthrax one he did, where he was
right.
Now which band was it? Oh, I know, it's Kiss. Where
Kiss.
I'm sure you could do it for Kiss, but the point was he got two of Anthrax arguing about what was the best Kiss album, and he was very pleased with that because he felt that he really got value for money. In the
well, with Kiss, you can buy tickets to the sound checks.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, they're sort of famous for finding new ways to monetize all the time, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're famous for being Tories. Have you here's a tip for you and viewers. I don't know if you can see it on a streaming service, but a really good film is this film called Elstree 77.
Right.
And it's about all the bit actors in Star Wars. So it's about these guys who played, Stormtrooper number 7.
Yeah.
And it's really good. It's really, really good. It's a sort of story about them not knowing what the hell's going on, not knowing this film was going to be massive at all. But then also, their gradual realization that they were in a piece of history and, following them now, just sort of earning money from what was then, a day's work or something, or a couple of days' work. It's a really good film. It's quite touching, actually. It handles the subjects really well. It doesn't take it out of them, and it takes time to follow their lives. And like one of them's trying to open a restaurant and stuff like this. But the only thing that connects them were, they were all sort of stormtroopers.
Yeah. You've reminded me, there's a documentary about Sam Jones, who played Flash Gordon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is kind of a similar thing, because it's talks about what happened to him after Flash Gordon, and it follows him around conventions and stuff.
Right. Okay. That sounds very similar.
Yeah, and that's quite interesting. The way he didn't really, didn't have much success after Flash Gordon.
I mean, Harrison Ford is the exception with a lot of these things. I mean, a lot of those sort of, Christopher Reeve in Superman, he didn't become an amazing character actor, did he? I mean, I think
no,
a lot.
Not really, no.
I think a lot of people find these kind of big franchise films to be a little bit of a kiss of death, at least in terms of diversity of career.
Yeah.
Like I say, Harrison Ford being the obvious exception.
Yep.
So
back to your paintings and your Comic-Con then.
Sometimes, I mean, I was talking earlier about good or bad. You have things that, I mean, the beauty of sort of what we do is, who's to tell us we're a failure, right?
Yeah.
If you like a painting, he's done it. I've done a good job.
Darren, we're artists. We're good enough at telling ourselves we're failures.
Yes. But you know what I mean? But when you finish a project, you can sort of say, okay, well, that album didn't get many reviews or anything, and it didn't sell much, but I really liked it. And yes, but I remember that night that person told me it was his favorite. You can always spin it.
Yeah.
There's no way to spin my 3 days at Comic-Con with my paintings. It wasn't that I didn't sell one. It's like no one spoke to me. Like, isn't that people didn't like my Star Wars paintings? It was like my Star Wars paintings were paintings of cancer or something. It was like I'd set up a little paedophile stall or something. I mean, like people. It was a really good store. It's really colourful. These big, colourful paintings. There was nothing else like it. At one point, a guy walked past and he had on his arm tattooed one of the figures I'd drawn. Not the character, the figure.
Yeah.
And he didn't look at me. He walked straight past, even though there was a massive canvas of something he loved so much that he'd had tattooed on his arm.
Brutal.
It was so brutal. I mean, I think you remember it on because I was fucking bored out of my box.
Yeah.
And so I was doing, and also, what else? How else can I promote myself other than a bit of Twitter or Instagram?
Yeah.
So obviously I haven't made a secret of it. Oh, anyone come into Comic-Con, pop by and say hello? No one. But also I also sort of had to start I think mainly because I was so bored, by about the Sunday, I decided to be sort of honest on Twitter about like what was happening. Like, because I thought that was funnier. And I was just saying, like, no one. I had my, like I say, I had my mate Dan with me, who's like, oh no, I think a few of those people will come back. And what people, Yeah. Because that's what your mate does, isn't it? They're like trying to be positive, but.
So I was surprised that you didn't sell any. I also, though, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I also wasn't surprised. I don't know if that makes sense, but I thought it was a ballsy move to go and get a stall for like 3 nights, 2 full days.
It's hard in retrospect to sort of see something as like, well, no, it's easy in retrospect to see something as a stupid move, isn't it? I mean, I agree too now. Now I look at it and think, wow, what were you thinking of? But I was very sure at the time. I was sort of thinking, I only need to sell 2 or 3, then I'm done. I've made my money back.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of thought that, your Star Wars fan, spends presumably hundreds on all sorts of stuff. This is just a drop in the ocean to them.
Yeah.
I think Dan's observation was that, the fans of this stuff like spending money, but they actually really like, what do you call it? Providence. They really like the things to be real.
Right.
So people might spend, 100 quid on a figure or something that's, a certain kind of rarity. But, what I do is a bit folksy, like I don't want what some bloke thinks Vader looks like.
Yeah.
I want what Vader looks like. I want the real thing or closest to it. What you'd ideally want is like a prop from the film. They're just interested in the thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think what I was doing was like a commentary about the thing. And they're like, we don't want commentary about the thing. We just want the thing.
Yeah.
And so there was someone who was selling kind of very airbrushed, very good, not my sort of thing, not your sort of thing, but very good sort of just portraits, but just had tons of them, and they were laminated.
Cheap.
Really cheap, like a fiver print, just flying out.
Yeah.
Because they looked absolutely like the thing. There was no doubt. This guy's drawn the guy that plays Darth Vader. It looks like the guy Darth Vader, whereas this guy over here has done a massive canvas, of a plastic figure of the thing I like. It's like, I think it's just too many removes.
Yeah.
But I do quite like having such a spectacular miss. It's just quite. I think we do all need one once in a while. We do all need a.
Oh
proper,
God, yeah.
That idea didn't work.
You said, I want to make sure we get this in. You had to do something though to keep yourself occupied whilst you were at this Comic-Con, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, so I was sort of, as often with me and with you. I mean, I think this is what we both do, isn't it? We always can make a project or a task. I like making a great game out of anything. So then what I decided to do was try and collect a photo of each one of my figures paintings being held by someone dressed up as the figure. So here we have a Tusken Raider with my painting of a Tusken Raider. We have two snow troopers with a snow trooper.
Oh, they even came dressed as snow troopers.
Yeah. Here we have someone dressed up as an X-Wing pilot, holding an X-Wing pilot. Two very tall Jawas with a very little Jawa.
Were their eyes lighting up?
Yeah. Chewbacca.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Biker Scout.
I like the Biker Scouts.
Yeah. Leia. In Endor gear with Leia in Endor gear. Vader. There were much better Vaders after this guy. I kind of had a rule that I just stuck with the first person. The first Vader I saw was a Vader. Stormtrooper. And here's my favourite, a lovely Leia. Look at her smile.
I know.
She didn't want to buy it though.
Not that nice. Smiling faces sometimes tell lies.
So it's a weird one, So, with this sort of being out Star Wars special, we're not really talking about Star Wars. What we're talking about is, because I still think that these massive Star Wars paintings, I think they're some of the best thing I've ever done.
I think they're great. I really do.
I think in terms of, not just in terms of technique, although I do think the technique's particularly good, but in terms of what they actually, I think they're sort of saying something a little bit. I think they're saying something more than Star Wars is great. I think they're saying something unspecific about memory.
I think sometimes the art that we regard as our best work, and we often regard it that way because it means something to us beyond just like technical accomplishment. It's often the art that is least successful in terms of sales. And it's reminded me of one of the other things you've done, which you think is some of your best work, and that's your drawings of broken wing mirrors, which you said at the time, they've not really gone. No one's bought these. I think you might have sold a couple, but
I've sold
it's interesting, isn't it?
I think with both of those things, the other thing, and this also sort of couples into that thing where I sometimes say I feel like I'm a little less of a proper artist than you and some of our friends in our online drawing club, in that I really enjoyed doing these paintings of the massive ones of the Star Wars figures, and felt that they were, like I say, it felt like they were saying something. I'm not entirely sure what they were saying, but I felt like I was communicating something with them.
Yeah.
And I really had plans to do loads, like if they'd sold. But this is why I think I'm sometimes not really, I lack something as an artist, because when they really did stop selling, when people sort of, voted without their wallets, so to say. I couldn't find a point to carrying on.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I sort of did stop doing them. I've actually just started doing these little ones now. And these little ones sell a little bit. People are quite happy to have a little postcard one of some of these Star Wars figures. Particularly robots sell quite well. When I do R2, he often sells.
Well, look, I can understand it. The response or lack of response being a factor in you stopping doing the large ones, but also just in a logistical reasons, you've only got so much space. If you're going to keep painting, paintings that size,
Yeah.
There comes a point where you have to sell them, or else you've no room to store them.
Yeah. Well, that's also true. I mean, like most of my paintings exist in a little plastic box. You know, I put all of the A4 in a little. Most of my paintings, they're in a box that size because most of them are postcards. Whereas these canvases, they're all propped up behind my bed currently. I have sold a couple, by the way. I sold Boba Fett. Eventually, I've sold Darth Vader to Craig himself, and I sold the X-wing Luke in his X-wing gear to a very, very lovely collector who didn't bat an eyelid. He was like, "Oh my God, you painted my favorite figure," and he
that's good.
Brought it out.
So I suppose in ultimately your
not a Comic Con, another thing, but yeah,
right. So your stall kind of was paid for ultimately, more or less.
Oh, it's a great story. I don't think that bothers me that much. I don't think like losing money on the day of that. You know, I got over that quite.
No, but you always do not always, because I don't mind. But there's always a little bit of a mental balance sheet going on just to see if it's like, oh yeah, well, you know.
I think there was. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was. I think when I sold a couple of them a few weeks later, I did sort of think, okay, well, at least you know, you just had you've had a funny day out at Comic Con,
yeah,
and you spent a month of your life painting these things. Yeah, the wing mirrors thing is interesting. Maybe we should do some another show on the wing mirror paintings. The wing mirror paintings is funny because I still walk about and see. So I haven't got them here to show. We'll have to do it another time. But I did a series where I did line drawings of broken wing mirrors. But when I'm out and about and I see them, I still sort of go, "Oh, that's a good one."
Yeah.
So I've still kind of got it on my radar. Do you know who this guy is I'm painting?
So I only recognise him because you've shown me the toy before. I've no idea who he is. I'm assuming he's in the Cantina bar because that's where all the weird ones in my head.
Yeah, this is the guy that Obi-Wan chops an arm off of.
Right. Okay. quite a vicious scene that one, wasn't it?
Really vicious scene, yeah.
It's perfect. I mean, they knew we're making that bit that kids are going to love this.
I actually only know this from Craig's excellent YouTube channel, Generation Skywalker.
Right.
But there's an outtake of that, and they originally went for the head.
Oh,
they filmed it with the head being chopped off, and then when they did the reshoots, they said, "Yeah, maybe just an arm."
Well, it's off. I wonder if there was a kind of a quota of violence to get it past certification.
Would have
decapitation, no, but a limb coming off. Yeah, we can do that. It's still PG.
I think it does stand out in that film. That scene. I seem to remember in the playground, you know, us going, "Oh God!" the bit where he chops his arm off.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was used to seeing arms being chopped off in films, so that doesn't seem entirely right that it was in that kind of film. Am I holding you up? Are you finished?
I've finished, but it's okay.
Okay, I'm not too far behind.
Yeah, I've drawn Sigourney Weaver as Princess Leia.
And so, did she audition for it, or?
I can't remember now. She was on that list that Craig sent you.
Because that would have really done for her, I suppose, wouldn't it? I mean, she wouldn't have done Alien. Because is Alien's only just... Alien's about 1980, I think, isn't it?
I think it's a couple of years up, maybe 79. But yeah, it was. It mentions in the list that, because it's like an article, and it does say, unfortunately, she managed to, she got her own sort of like sci-fi hero not long after this.
Yeah, I mean, she's still probably got a few action figures of her herself.
She auditioned for it, apparently.
She auditioned for Leia?
Yeah.
Oh.
Apparently so.
I'm just trying to see if there's any more little bits of... this is quite a sweet one to show you. So Craig's house and Craig's YouTube channel is a constant, plucking things from your memory, constantly, these Proustian rushes.
Yeah.
And then he showed this one thing, and I was like, oh my God, like things I'd forgotten owning. And I was like, no, now you've really taken me back to junior school, and you've taken me back to dinner hour. And I was having this came with a piece of paper in it that said something like galactic facts or something like that. But it was just like the times table and, imperial to metric and different things like that. And Craig got out and showed me, and it was like I'd got punched in the stomach. Like I remember having this bit of paper in maths and thinking, I've got C-3PO's galactic information sheet. But I had never, ever thought of it, and would never have thought of it in another 50 years had Craig not shown me this thing, and it suddenly ignited his memory. So he showed me this other thing that excited me, and then he did a really sweet thing. He went and got me one, and it's this. It's an Empire Strikes Back Yoda roughneck flask.
Oh, God.
Isn't that sweet of him? Yeah.
Wow.
And it actually sits on one of the speakers of my stereo.
I had a flask like that, but I can't remember what it was.
I've got a memory of a lot of Peanuts ones.
Right, yeah.
But I also remember that this erodes quite quickly, this transfer. My Yoda gradually disappeared from every day being in my bag.
And is Roughneck Flask actually a brand, or is it just a style? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, if you look here, it's got a logo, but it's Thermos.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, look at that. That's a great logo.
Yeah.
I may go down the Roughneck Flask rabbit hole after this.
Well, this is the thing, Craig's cost me a pretty penny over the last year. So, like some of these figures, indeed, the two I painted today, a lot of these figures are from my childhood, but now I'm thinking, I'm an adult. I can have the ones I didn't have when I was a kid now. I can have what I want. So every now and then I get Bumface here and get him sent to me.
Bumface.
Where's my other painting? Let's put them together.
I don't think I can fit mine on. Let's have a look. Oh, there we go.
Brilliant.
Need to erase all these lines. I may have to watch Fletch later. I think I've got Fletch on DVD.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to cook. I think I've...
Oh, yeah, I have to eat as well.
I haven't really brought any ingredients for ages, so I think I might cook something.
I have a ready meal.
I've been a little lazy of late, and I went to the shops today and told myself I was going to be a bit less lazy tonight. Right. Well, thank you. I mean, I'm sure viewers could tell that, this was really Darren's thing more than Darren's thing. So thank you for humouring me, because
I enjoyed it.
I have wanted to talk about Star Wars, and particularly, the relation Star Wars has had to my art recently.
And you gave me a chance to draw Chevy Chase.
I think probably what I will do is, if you can give me the heads up when this is going live, I think I might, knock down the price of some of those big Star Wars paintings.
Yes. Never want to turn down a sales opportunity.
We need to do. I think we should also at some point have a little discussion on here about the pricing of artwork, and the eternal torment of artists trying to find a price for their art.
We should.
I mean, everyone saw what we did then. We just mucked about. How is that worth anything? How is that worth anything? I'm just mucking about. And yet, it's time, isn't it?
Yep. One day we'll work it out.
May the force be with you, Darren.
And with you, Darren.
Goodbye, Darren.
Bye. I was going to turn it off then. Bye.
You always got to say goodbye. You always seem surprised when I say bye.
Do it again. I'm ready for you.
Goodbye, Darren.
Oh, bye, Darren.